Kia ora, good evening. Australian authorities have reported the Ebola virus was not present in the liquid sent to Melbourne for testing earlier this week. The liquid and the bottle it was in was delivered in a suspicious package to the New Zealand Herald mailroom on Tuesday morning. A document in the package suggested the virus was contained in the bottle. Police have today notified the New Zealand Herald and emergency staff that attended the call-out. The test for Ebola has come back negative. Former West Coast Health Board CEO and current Green Party health spokesperson Kevin Haig says the evidence is clear the health funding model is failing the people of Otago and Southland. He says the Southern District Health Board is struggling with the effects of long-term underfunding, stretching back prior to Otago and Southland combining in 2010. The SDHB posted a $15 million deficit last year.
I think Southern DHB is still struggling with both the historic underfunding of both Southland and Otago district health boards. Simply combining the district health boards actually doesn't deal with that underfunding problem.
That didn't create efficiencies?
No doubt there probably are one or two efficiencies. So in the management team there's now one manager for human resources across the two, where there were previously two. But those are pretty small in scale. And actually, the combined district health board is still operating in large parts, as far as I can see, simply as two pushed together, which actually creates new problems rather than it necessarily solves them. So I think that's one of the problems. There's a deep level underfunding problem, which means it doesn't have the resources to provide the services that people in this region need. So that's clearly one of the problems. I think there are other issues too. So what I'm hearing is an insensitivity towards clinical needs. So a board that's not responding to what senior clinicians are actually saying is required. And I guess what I've seen recently is reports on colonoscopy, for example. So Southland has the highest bowel cancer rate in the country. And yet 1 in 3 people referred for colonoscopy by general practitioners are not getting it, being turned away. And I suspect that's because the DHB doesn't have the resources to provide the colonoscopy services that people need, not that those people don't need that service. What are health services for? They're to meet people's needs. So the way to plan services is to say, what do people need? What services do we need to meet those needs? And therefore, what's the funding that we need to be able to support those services? And it's important, of course, that the District Health Board is innovative and thinks in new ways to provide services more efficiently. But actually, what we're seeing are signs that the District Health Board is now scrimping on services. So the issue with Queenstown, for example, the DHB withdrawing from providing service to that area where service is clearly important, that is a dysfunctional response to a problem of shortage of funds. And what we saw yesterday actually with the publication of the briefings to the incoming minister was the Ministry of Health acknowledging for the first time in the past 6 years that services are critically underfunded and that's impacting on services and people are missing out on services they need.
So it's the funding model. What applies in Auckland doesn't down here.
Yeah, I think the funding model is clearly part of it, but it's more. Actually, I don't particularly care what the funding model is, provided that the model delivers enough funding to provide the services that people need, and at the moment it's not.
There was more than a 6% climb in guest nights for September compared to last year and follows 6 months of consecutive rises. 11 of the 12 regions had increases, with Auckland and Wellington being the main contributors. The North Island took the lion's share, with guest nights up 7.1%, while South Island guest nights rose 4.7%. Domestic guest nights increased 6.6%, while international rose 5.5%. All 4 accommodation types, including hotels, motels, backpacker accommodation and holiday parks, saw guest nights increases, according to Statistics New Zealand. A targeted campaign is hoped to entice more Australians across the ditch to New Zealand's tourism mecca, Queenstown. Destination Queenstown have banded together with Tourism New Zealand in a bid to woo more Aussies to the country's leading four-season resort over summer. A summer story campaign entitled Every Day a Different Journey is being rolled out in Sydney and Melbourne markets with the aim of boosting tourism numbers between January and April next year. Regular flights between Australia and Queenstown make the town the perfect summer getaway, according to DQ's CEO Graham Budd. He says Australians can be in a whole new world in less than 3 hours. Stay with us after the break. Enviro teachers hit the beach, local government launch a new job seekers website, and JP celebrate 200 years of service. Welcome back. Environment Southland staff and some local teachers took a deeper look at a southern shoreline today as part of the nationwide Marine Metres Squared project. The citizen science project involves surveying plants and animal living in local seashores. Today, samples collected from Amaui's Mokomoko Inlet were taken back to ES for analysis before being loaded into a national data log.
We've just been out at the estuary doing our Marine Metre Squared project, and this is a citizen science project about long-term monitoring of local shorelines. And what it involves is putting out a metre squared area and identifying and counting both the plants and the animals found within that area.
And that information is going to be used as an ongoing basis for just determining what is living there and how healthy that estuary is?
That's right. It's a national project, so we've got a national database, and we're encouraging schools and interested groups and families to put the data up on the website so that other groups can compare and look at that data over time.
So this is something that anybody could be involved with?
Yeah, I keep telling everyone it's easy and it's free. And we're very keen for people to go down to their local shoreline and start gathering information about the distribution of different species, the abundance, and observations, what they're seeing.
What will happen with this data in the long term?
Well, we hope it will be useful to science. We've already had schools find species that we didn't think were in those areas. So they're looking at distribution, they're gathering information about biodiversity, as well as abundance of different species.
I would imagine as a school child this would be quite an exciting project to be involved in and something quite purposeful when you go to the beach.
That's right, this is real science. They're contributing to a database that will be used by scientists.
What's the long-term longevity of the project?
Well, we hope it's a long-term project, and that's why we're working with groups like Environment Southland, because we want other groups to pick it up and help supporting schools. A big part of the project is developing a network between scientists, between the community, between schools and youth.
Job seekers around the country now have access to a new online tool to explore career opportunities available within local government. lgcareers.co.nz allows users to source information about roles available in the sector, and job seekers can also immediately apply for jobs listed on the site. The New Zealand Society of Local Government Managers, or SOLGM, are behind the new job searching site. As well as online application, the website provides information on career enhancement options available to local government staff, including overseas management exchanges, training opportunities and scholarships for courses aimed at improving knowledge and skills of staff across local government. It's been 200 years since the first Justice of the Peace was sworn in New Zealand. Last night, the Southland Justices of the Peace Association members had a special dinner to acknowledge the double century in this, the year of the JP. Hunter Andrews asked Justice of the Peace Association Chair Rowan Black about that 200-year history.
It's really been a change of role from initially they had the jurisdiction similar to what they have a court judge would have. Nowadays our role is more signing and certifying documents for people so that the courts aren't tied up as much as they were, and the judges are free to get on with other cases.
You had a special dinner last night. Quite amazing that now in New Zealand we are celebrating 200 years and thinking 1814 was a very long time ago.
It certainly was, and it was 200 years to the day yesterday, the 12th of November, that the first JP, Reverend Thomas Kendall, was sworn in New Zealand. And so we thought it was very appropriate to to celebrate that evening last night. So we had a function, all the JPs in our association, there's about 148 of them, they were all invited to come along to Elmwood, and we had a long service awards presentation as well. So for any of our JPs who have served 25 years or more, they were presented with a long service certificate by Judge Michael Turner. So we were pleased to have him along as our guest speaker too.
I think you said 148 in the association,
Yes.
is that right? So every community is covered in Southland? Do people have to travel far to find a JP?
Well, we endeavour to make sure that we do have a JP for people that's easily accessible. We cover southern Southland, central Southland, western Southland, parts of northern Southland, all of Invercargill, Fiordland and Stewart Island. So yeah, we're pretty lucky. The Gore area do have their own association, which I believe it came about because of the use of their courthouse. So that's why they had their own association over there. But we do have an ongoing process where we're trying to future-proof all of Southland to make sure that JPs are available for our communities. So our association council have an ongoing system where we go around and make sure that each community has an up-and-coming JP as well as the senior standing one. So.
It's a constantly evolving position. It sounds like a lot of paperwork, or notarising a lot of paperwork. Do you see, what would society be like without JPs, do you think? A lot of us don't come in contact with them a lot, but would we notice if JPs were gone?
The courts certainly would. Their workload would be huge because between us we do see a lot of clients over a year who would normally have to go to the courts to get these documents all certified, and the workload for them would be huge. It really would. So Judge Turner said last night that the courts did acknowledge the wonderful work that we are doing in keeping that paperwork going, and it would hold up so many things, immigrations, applications for things, because the courts just couldn't process them all as quickly as we can.
JPs for another 200 years, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And that's it from us this Thursday. Weather is along next. From the news team, it's good night.